Okay, so my name's Shannon. I work at Asana as a customer success manager, and what I wanted to do today was teach you guys about Asana, answer all of your questions, really make this as interactive as possible. But first, I'm going to share my screen because that would be probably helpful. And tell me if this is teeny. It probably is teeny. Let's see. Can you all read that, or is that like a Yeah. Is that better? Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'll kind of do a little zooming there. Let me know if you guys are struggling to see that. So before I get started, I'd love to just get a better understanding of who's in the room, who currently uses Asana. Anyone? Okay, so a decent amount of y'all. Are you like just getting started? Have you done a ton? Where do the people that have used it stand?
We've been at it about a year.
Okay.
And we use it for account management. We use it for some loose sales tasks, project management.
Okay. So like still building things out and kind of using it loosely, it sounds like? Okay, cool. And then everyone that hasn't used it, have you guys, is this like a totally new, you've never seen it before type thing? Okay. So I'm gonna not get too in the weeds of like the basics, every single feature and functionality, because there's a lot, and that's kind of the fun of it. Is it's really flexible. You can explore, set things up how they make sense for your workflows. And apparently we're gonna have this go down for a second. But I did want to just go through kind of a basic overview of what you're looking at in the tool and kind of the idea behind Asana, and dig into how we use it at Asana. So I'll cover the basics, walk through those things. Hopefully this will reload and we can start and kind of cover those things. But definitely as I'm walking through things, if you guys have questions, let me know. I'd way rather have this be like a conversation than me talk at y'all for an hour. And hopefully if you're kind of leaving with questions, I'll be around this afternoon and also tomorrow morning. So if you want to like just ask me a question about a specific workflow, if you're wondering like, did I set this up right? Does this make sense? I'm more than happy to dig into that. And this is lovely timing. So I'm gonna kind of just start and pretend like this is not thinking. So to just give you a general idea around Asana. So Asana was really created to help teams work better together. So if you're thinking of all of this stuff that you're doing that's like work about work, it's checking like, wait, I thought this person was doing that. Maybe no one is, maybe two people are. All of the kind of lack of transparency and issues that you have around like running a team or even like your own personal to-dos and kind of keeping track of all of the different things that you have going on across all these different projects or to-dos, tasks. The intent of Asana is to really put all of that work there. So you have this transparency. You're not like digging through email threads, finding the latest version of something, checking to make sure someone's actually doing what they're supposed to be. You kind of have it all here and you have all your answers in front of you. So I'm gonna reload this and see if I can get it to look like something that you guys can see. And I kind of wanna walk through, lovely, what this would look like so that I'm not just talking in strange terms. But generally speaking, your Asana organization is like your work universe of sorts. So you have this space where you can build things out and really map out your workflows however it makes sense for you. So if you have, all of these different groups working together, they can be, hopefully I'm about to show you and not just talk about it. So let's see if we get anything. So kind of any work that you're wanting to map out, regardless of what it is. If it's like this little task, perfect, we're back. This little task, this little to-do, that's kind of your main component of Asana. So you'll see all of these things listed out here, and I'll make this a little bigger so you guys can see better. All of these things listed out here are tasks. So they can be really traditional in the sense of like, who is this assigned to, by when, I want to add all the details, the attachments, everything. They can also be kind of like thinking outside of that task spectrum. Things like running your meetings in Asana. You have this agenda, those are your discussion topics and your follow-up items. maybe brainstorming and everyone's kind of coming together and you're jotting down all of your ideas as tasks. It's really flexible, so you can use it how you want. I'm gonna go more in like the traditional, how would I map out tasks and make sure that you have a really good understanding of what your team is up to and where y'all stand on a project. So your general hierarchy here, I kind of mentioned this universe of sorts. So you all, as Capital Factory members, get a free organization, access to a premium organization in Asana, I think up to 50 people, is that right, Trish? Okay. So what that means is you'll sign up for Asana, there's some steps in your perk hub. So you'll sign up there and just sign up with your domain, and it'll put you in this kind of universe where you can then just start building things out, playing around with the tool. You'll see that you have this other, I'm gonna call it universe instead of organization, space called personal projects. That's like this whole distinct area. I use it to plan trips, to like keep my errands. It's like not work related. Everyone has this space with their Asana. So kind of focusing in on your work universe. You'll see that up here when you log in. So that's your organization. Within that, you can kind of build out these different levels, however it would make sense for your business. So teams are kind of your next level. Don't think of them as functional groups. Think of them as like containers of projects. So you have these containers. We have them set up as functional groups, but we also have like a staff team that will do our bigger picture, like competitors, objectives, all of these things that I'll kind of show you what they look like as projects for us. They can be functional groups, just kind of how does your organization kind of funnel up and what would make sense for these groups? Because what you have within them are these projects. So what you're looking at here is a project. So you have just a bunch of tasks, right? A bunch of somehow related tasks that you have a group of people working on. And then your task is kind of this main component where like, I don't want to say like where the magic is, but like where you have all of the details that you can kind of map out and like assign people, give due dates, add things, with the hope that you're like not digging through all of your emails, you're not like constantly having to schedule meetings to say like, hey, where are we at with this? Because you can just look here and it's kind of all outlined for you. And then if we're getting granular, we've got subtasks. If you're like, okay, well, I have these tasks, but a lot of times they have like all these different steps or these people involved. That's where you can use subtasks and kind of break things out into steps, divvy up work amongst multiple people, however it would make sense for you. So I've said however it makes sense for you a lot because it's really flexible, which is great because it means map out your workflows. They should all kind of map well into the tool. It also can be a little overwhelming in terms of like, where do I start and is this the best setup? So we'll kind of walk through some of that. But any questions around like, you log in, what on earth are you seeing, or is it make sense? Yeah.
Well, I guess based on the question you just posed, I would love to talk a little bit about how so you said I log in and it looks like what? When I log in, it doesn't look like this.
Yeah.
I have to set this up. So
Sure.
I'm really curious about the hierarchy because personally I'd like to be more organized.
Okay.
It's a tool for organization and I know I could do more with it. So I guess the next, like the question I was thinking as you were looking at this, just the general hierarchy as a task. I guess one I'd like to clarify, so you have a section, which I can't read, it says basics.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then general hierarchy is a task, is that correct?
That's right, yeah.
And then you have subtasks within that.
Exactly. So I mean, and one good thing is, so let's say you're building stuff out and you're like, I built this out as a task, but it's getting like ginormous. There's tons of stuff, there's like people, there's subtasks within subtasks, which like, I wouldn't go there, like I wouldn't get too deep in the weeds there. You have this option to always like make things into a project. So you're not like stuck where you are, this convert project. And the same would go for like you create a project and you're like, that would actually make sense in this other team that like we want to break this up into different groups. We didn't really think of that. You can easily just move an entire project to another team and kind of segment things out. So I would kind of think of like, what are my like big areas of work, whether they're groups of people or like a customer that's huge and you have a ton of projects around them. Have those be your teams and then start building out your projects from there. And I think like a staff or like a company-wide team is a really good like catch-all, like what bigger picture things do we want everyone to know regardless of where they fall in these teams. And another note around the hierarchy is everyone, like, it's not totally cut and dry of like Trish is in the marketing team and she doesn't see anything else. Like you can make Trish see whatever you want her to see. She can be a member of whatever teams you want. You can kind of adjust the flexibility there. It's super transparent and we'll kind of dig into that. But I'll make sure that we're kind of talking about these different levels here. And you're exactly right that you called that a section, and that's really, and I'll dig into that with the projects, but just a way if you're thinking of like, okay, I have this, thing that's huge, it has all of these tasks to do's, like trying to break that up where you're not just looking at this overwhelming, crazy, I don't even know like what's what type list. So we'll dig into sections. Any other questions like from the get-go? Yeah.
I have a question. So we've used this primarily for internal collaboration.
Okay.
Do you know if there's a use case or have you used it at all for any sort of external stakeholders and how does that work?
Yeah, sure. So everyone that's internal, so you invite people into your Asana, they have your email domain, they're a member. So they're like these internal people, they'll have visibility to kind of whatever you grant them access to. The same would go for external people. They'll register as guests. They still have all the same functionality, so they can collaborate with you, they can comment, they can complete a task if you assign it to them, if that's the kind of relationship you have. But you can decide with guests, what level do you want to grant them access to? So my husband actually uses Asana for his job, and they have their different customers as teams with all of their projects and to-dos. And so he'll invite just the right person in to a certain project or even a task. So essentially, like if this was a task, and I have his name, of course, spelled all these weird ways to just show as an example, but if I'm like, I want to share this with an external person and I only want them to see this. I don't want them to know anything else that we're doing. You can share something with someone at all these different levels. So if I'm sharing just this task, what that means is like Bo would see this task and he would see it in a view like this. So he wouldn't know any of that other stuff exists. It's just a way to kind of pepper people into like, here's what we're doing and here's what's applicable to you. So how are we gonna kind of share that and not share everything that you maybe don't want people to see? Any other questions? Yeah.
So,
Sure.
so in terms of the software, is this more like task-based, or can you do like project management, or is it a combination? Because I'm trying to gauge is that, I know there are pieces of, is it trying to get into like Microsoft project kind of thing, or is it more centrally focused towards task-based?
It's a little bit of both. It's more task-based. It has the project management aspects, but in a much more lightweight fashion than something like project. So we have integrations with third parties to bring in things like Gantt charts and dependencies that are like not great. They're like my #1 wish list item. So it's a little more lightweight in terms of we'll map it out and use like the communication structure that it has built in to really like kind of have that be, okay, we're running this project, we have all these people involved, and we're having our back and forth, but it's not stringent in the way of like, you have something to do and it's blocking me in the way project is. Yeah. Okay, so kind of digging into the task side of it. So this is your main component of work in Asana. So I think this is where you can really make your projects, your tasks, where like you're getting rid of all of that like back and forth and lack of clarity as to who's doing what, just by kind of building out all of the details that you can at this task level. So if you are creating a task, and I'm gonna kind of do like a bad example or a good example and then a bad example. So if you're creating a task and you're gonna assign it to someone, you want them to look at it and know what they need to do without them being like, wait, what? Can you give me more details? When do I need to do this? Because that's really accomplishing nothing. It's the same stuff you'd be doing in email or in person. So I would give all the details you can in creating a task. You don't have to like spend forever on this, just like any quick details you can provide just give those answers from the get-go, and then you're not having to have this back and forth. So if there's something that I am assigning to my colleague, and I, want Yev to do this by tomorrow, I can say that. I can even drill into a due time if I want. And then I'm gonna add any other kind of key things that would be helpful. So if it's like subtasks that I wanna break up, like, okay, I need you to do this, this, and this, maybe I'm detailing that. Maybe just in the description, telling her like what I want you to do. But more than anything, giving it a title that's like pretty concise and lets the person know, like, instead of like, do this, and she would look at this and have no idea what this is, especially if none of this stuff was here. Giving this as like can you please do whatever this is? You don't have to say please, but can you do this? And then giving details as like what it is, what the description, subtasks, providing any additional context. So that Yev gets this notification, hey, Shannon asked you to do something, and she has everything she needs. She can kind of just go and do it. So that's how I would approach, a task, like give all the context that you can. And then this last bit is how all the communication is stemming in Asana. So you have task followers. And this is, think of people that are like you're really granularly involved people around a piece of work. So if you're thinking of an email, who's CC'd, who actually needs to be CC'd? That's your task followers. The people that you're CCing that are like, I don't need to know this, maybe leave those people off. They can also kind of opt out on their own if it's like just getting overwhelming. Because what task followers will get is notifications around everything that happens with this task. So if I change the due date, if I, reach out to, and I'm using this at mentioning, if I'm reaching out to ask my colleague a question, this would merit a notification. Kind of everything that we're doing around this task is going to notify someone. So that's really great when you're closely involved and you want all of that information, but it can be pretty overwhelming if you don't. So that's when I'll kind of dig into this next level, which is being a project member. So like, if there's a project that you're like generally interested in, but you don't need to know everything that's happening, higher up that would just benefit from like, tell me what the status is of this project, red, yellow, green, like how's it going? Show me a burn up. Those people would be good as project members, and then like queuing in people in as task followers when they want like the nitty gritty around something. And so as for that project member part that I talked about, that comes into play here at like the higher project level. So the project owner, so think of it as like if you have someone that owns a task, they're responsible for it. You know who's there doing it and by when, hopefully if it has a due date. You can also have a project owner. And this person is like, okay, I'm overseeing this whole project and providing updates to kind of funnel up and also letting people know, keeping my eye on all this stuff and making sure it gets done. So if I'm the project owner, I can provide some pretty high level updates. I can kind of add whatever insight I want here. And these kind of updates, burn up charts, and like generally how it's going, that's what's going to go to the project members. So much higher level than this task follower, but you can kind of have people choose, or you can choose at what level people are involved in getting notified. Any questions around that? I know I kind of went through a lot there around the tasks and the followers. Yeah.
Can you remind me, the followers get every single update. What do members receive?
Project members would get, so you have two options, and I think it totally depends on what type of project you have. So status updates is what I just went through of like that red, yellow, green, super high level. That would be like if the project member or owner updates that, they would get that. You also have this task creation option. So what that means is every time a task is added, so a piece of work is added to the project, the members would get notified. For like a lot of projects, I think that can get really overwhelming. I think it's really good for like running meetings in Asana or brainstorming, or everyone follows things for bug tracking at Asana. So you're seeing like all the things come in and you can kind of chime in when you want. So you have these two options, and I think kind of like updating it depending on the project. Any other questions around that? So that's kind of like a task, building this great task, right? And just as a note, I didn't really dig into this. You create a new project, and I'll kind of go through the steps here, but when you go to create a new project, you will, by default, it's gonna be public to the team. So this is kind of one of our values of transparency by default, like you're making this project and its tasks public unless you say otherwise. So you can make it private. You can make it private to just you if it's like this half-baked idea that you're kind of building out. You can make it private to just a smaller group of people. We'll use that for like one-on-one meetings. And I'll kind of dig into meetings a bit. But when you create this project, you'll have this blank slate, which you can go here and approach it this way. I would just click right in, start creating your tasks, hit enter, works like a text editor. And in this space, this is where I would bring in some of these kind of project organizations. You have all these tasks. If you're just like having a heyday, hitting enter, entering this long list, probably would be good to bring in some way to segment it, like these sections. So these are just a task followed by a colon. So you can quickly create them as you're hitting enter and typing everything in. You also have tags as this organizational tactic. So I use these a lot because I like color. So I want to bring some color into my Asana, especially in calendar views. But essentially tags span across projects and across teams. So if you're wanting to create a tag that's like high priority, or maybe a tag that you can see like different ones I have around different themes or whatever it is, you can create these, and it's just with this tag icon. Click into the tag, give it a color. Clicking into the tag is going to show you everything across all of your whole universe with that tag. They can become kind of the wild, wild west in that I can create a tag like this go-to spots one, and Trish can create one without this hyphen, and they're going to be two separate things. So if you're trying to like categorize and kind of organize, I would build out like, how do we want to use these from the get-go so that you don't have like all of these things that you think are related that kind of aren't. But those would be two good ways to kind of visually organize your projects and hopefully make it where you can look at one and it's like pretty digestible. Any questions around that? Like the project setup? Okay, and I'll also show you how you can get unicorns that are on your screen. And we kind of went into this, but this transparency by default idea. So being able to, so you create a project, it's gonna be public to the team. You can make it private, and what that means is you can have this team, this group of people, this kind of container, and the people in the team will see a certain project and they won't even see the other ones. Like that example I gave of adding Bo as a guest, like he would only see that task because that's all I'm sharing with them. So you can kind of limit what you'd like people to see. You can even set your teams, these kind of groups, to be private or like they're hidden, no one sees them or any other projects, or you can make a membership by request where someone's kind of like knocking to enter so that you can control who's having access to that information and it's not a total free-for-all. So just a few things to consider there around privacy. And if you guys have any questions, definitely let me know. But what I wanted to do is kind of give you an idea of, instead of like, here is a section or whatever, like just how we use it and touch on those things as we're going. Let me know, shout out if you guys have questions around anything. But I know that you guys are probably looking at my screen and I have like way too many projects favorited and a lot of, teams and a lot of projects. It can look pretty overwhelming. So that said, I tell people to not really like spend time scrolling through projects, like digging in for a certain, oh, I can't remember what this project is, I'm gonna scroll through everything in my left pane. Like, to me, that's not a good use of your time. Rather, I kind of live in these two areas up here. So my tasks in my inbox, and I'm gonna go into them separately. My tasks, everything you're responsible for. So anything that you're assigned to across your whole universe is gonna live here. And my inbox is gonna be all those notifications, everything you're following, project member stuff, it's all going here. So it's like everything you need to do and everything you care about, kind of. And I find a lot of the time I'm like navigating to all of this because of the things that are here, and it's kind of organically taking me through the tool without me having to go and like, okay, I want to look at, you know, whatever it is. So starting with my tasks, and again, tell me if you guys have like playing a scrolling Zoom game here. Okay, so I'll show you kind of how I use my tasks and how it's designed, and then like if you're watching me and you're like, I would never do that, how you can approach it. But it's a really good spot to see everything that you're responsible for. So anything someone's assigned you, it's gonna live here. It'll live in that project too, but you're just getting this like one-stop shop view. You'll also see this is a great spot to create these one-off tasks. So if there's something that you're like, oh, I don't want to forget to do fill in the blank, this is a good spot to put that, because things that you create here, so like this put up out of office, for example, things you create in this area are private by default. So something like put up out of office, I need to do that, it's work related, but nobody really cares, nor do I need to like notify anyone that I'm doing this. So me creating it here, you can see it's in my tasks, it's not in a project, I'm the only follower, I'm the only one that would see this. So it's this way to have like your private random to-dos that you put on a post-it or you write on your hand or you do whatever with, and have them live alongside your work that is more collaborative, other people are checking in on. So how you'll see mine set up, and if y'all go in and you build out some stuff and you click into this area, you're probably gonna see a lot of these new tasks that are bold, they have this blue dot. This is anything you haven't done something with. So you either haven't triaged it and figured out like, okay, when do I need to do this? Or you haven't completed it. So those are all living here. And how this is set up is to give you these different sections, these today, upcoming, and later, with the hopes that you're kind of like building out a today list that's pretty achievable. This is kind of gnarly, probably not gonna get through all of this. But if I'm going through my new tasks and I see maybe I have things assigned to me that aren't due for quite some time, I don't even wanna look at those right now. So I can move those, I can grab them and I can move them to later. So what that does is it takes these tasks and it puts them down in this compressed later section, and then a week before their due date, they'd rise up to upcoming, and on their due date, you'd see them in today. So you're getting all this stuff out of the way that you just don't need to worry about quite yet. It's not gonna go into a black hole because you gave it a due date, so it'll kind of rise through. But that way, hopefully I can clear all this out and like just see, okay, what do I actually need to do? Or like, what's coming up soon? And then all this stuff that isn't for a while, like I don't need to mess with that yet. If this notion is like, I would never do this, you can organize your My Tasks in different formats, like by project or by due date, and not take that like triaging of, okay, what am I gonna do today approach. But if you are like, yeah, this is cool, I'd like to kind of organize and get things out of my visibility for now, anything that doesn't have a due date, I always just give it an estimate. Like, okay, this needs to be done like around Memorial Day, and I'll give it a due date of that, because then I'll see it come through and then I can adjust the due date however I want to and kind of like take control of it a bit. So this is my tasks. So just everything that you're responsible for. So it's all the stuff that's living across all these different projects and teams, but it's just kind of drilling into what do you need to do. Any questions around that area? Yeah.
On the consider updating your project status, how do you get it not to do that?
Yeah, actually, just going through this with someone else, because that's crazy. Okay, so your project, so if you're a project owner, so like for this Capital Factory one, it's this like really handy, I heard it written as passive aggressive reminder to update your status. You can disable that.
It's really cool, except if you have like 10 of them, you get 10 notification emails, which defeats the purpose of not getting emails.
Yeah, and we'll dig into notification emails in just a second. Yeah. So turn that off for projects. If you're like, I know I'm the project owner, I'm gonna update this, or maybe I'm not. It's this little.
Yeah, where'd you go to get that?
Oh, it's at whatever the project is. So in your Asana, any
Okay.
projects, you're the owner. So yeah, turn that off if it drives you crazy and you're getting these notifications. That's not the intent. So, so my test, it's kind of like this step one, like my area I kind of live in. I actually keep my tasks open on one tab and inbox open on another tab, because inbox is kind of this number 2 area. So everything that you're involved with goes to inbox. So if you're kind of, if you're following a lot of things and you're getting a lot of email notifications, if you really love those email notifications, great. If they drive you crazy, you can turn them off and just use this inbox. That's what I kind of suggest to people as you are using the tool more. So if you have Asana open, like you have email open, like you don't need those email notifications. So you can turn them off, and all that stuff is also streaming here. You can turn them off with this envelope icon, just to give you an idea. So I approach this as like, I'll scroll through as I read things, I just X them out. They're all going into this archive area. If there's something I want to click into, or I see someone assign something to me, I might click in, ask for clarification, get some feedback, and then kind of move on. So this area is a really good like catch-all of everything that you have going on, everything that you care about. If you're getting things that are like I'm CC'd on an email and I don't really care type thing, there's this unfollow task option. So that's not like this hard and fast, like I never want to see this again type thing. It just means you won't get notified about it. So you can still see the task. It's still visible to you. You can see the project. It's just, you don't need to get notified every time something happens. So it's kind of like having the power to un-CC yourself from an email. So that's what this option is here, and you can do that right from inbox. You can do it from the notifications as well. And then there's a few hacks, and it's kind of where the unicorns are coming from, but this like create reminder task, there are a few in my tasks as well. And if you go here where you would see your personal projects, to your profile settings, this area has the unicorns, but then it also has some hacks that would be particularly useful for my tasks and for inbox. So I check those out. And just trying to think if there was anything else that I would definitely mention around inbox. Any other questions around my tasks or inbox, like as your 2 kind of catch-all areas? Yeah.
How do I look at tasks that's been completed?
Tasks that have been completed. So for a project, by default, you're gonna see just what you still have to do. So you can see as I've checked things off as complete, they've kind of dropped off your view. You can always get back to them here. So if it's something that I'm like, oh, I didn't mean to check that off, you can get to it here. You can also have, if you think it would be valuable to see a project and like see your progress as you go, you can set your view as such and save this to be your default view if you wish. So you can kind of see your progress there. So that's a really good option at a project level. There's also this area here, this search bar, that if you click into it, kind of like playing this Zoom game, and click advanced search, I use this a ton, and a great way to use this would be kind of, okay, you want to get a read across all of the different stuff, not just a certain project. So if you're wanting to see maybe everything that's been completed, and maybe everything that's been completed in the past month, period, across all of your projects. Or maybe you want to drill into by certain people. This is a dynamic search view that I'm gonna kind of dig into maybe just a few people so we don't get this crazy list. It's a dynamic search view that'll look like a project. What it's gonna show you is everything that kind of fits the bill, everything that's been completed by Yev or Tatiana in the past month. You can kind of drill in here, adjust it however you'd like, favorite it the way you can favorite a project, title it whatever you'd like. And since it's dynamic, it'll kind of update as the days shift, as they complete things. So this is a good way to get an idea of like, okay, what's my team been up to? Like, what have we done? And flipping that, it's a great way to see, okay, what do we still need to do? Like, what is incomplete and due in the next however many days? Maybe for just them, or maybe it's something that I want to see. I want to see everything that I assigned that's incomplete and due in the next week. you can update this, create as many of these as you'd like. Quick way to get to completed tasks. It's also how you can get to deleted tasks. So nothing is ever like totally gone and lost. If you check it off or delete it, you can always get back to it. Yeah. Okay, so as for those notifications, so we kind of went into turning the email notifications off. I would also just be really picky about what you're following. So if you see something, you want to unfollow it, just unfollow it. You can get back to it. And if you see a project or a task that you're really interested in, just add yourself as a follower. If you're like totally not related to it, so I do this with engineering stuff, and I'm like, I'm not gonna like chime in my opinion, but I can at least follow it and kind of see what direction we're taking, and kind of be a fly on the wall. So anything that you see like that, just follow it, and you can kind of see updates as they come through. And then again, like just the high level, if you're wanting information, I would just add yourself as a project member. So kind of choosing like what level of information that you want. And so we kind of went into this one, but so that's all well and good, building out all of your different, projects, your tasks, getting all of your information mapped out into the tool, seeing who's doing what. I think where it becomes really valuable is being able to talk about all the stuff that you're doing alongside your work. So you build out all of these tasks. If you're wanting, let's say that this is something that's assigned to me, and it's due, if it was due today and I'm like, there's no way that I'm gonna be able to get to this, instead of having this just like float here and be something that like, everyone's like, I wonder if Shannon's gonna actually do that today. Using this comments area to update people if you're the assignee, or flip it if you're like, hey, are you doing this? This is a great place to have those conversations and kind of back and forth to just keep everything correlated and right here. You can also attach pretty much whatever you'd like to Asana. So if you're like, have all these things living in different spots, just getting, if they're Google Docs, like referencing them here, attaching them here, different versions, files, whatever it is. Just getting everything into this one location so that y'all aren't spinning your wheels going to all of these different spots to see like, wait, is this the latest version? What's the latest update? You can kind of see all of that here. So if you're using this conversations area and you're like, tons of threads, really long conversation, and you're spending time digging through this instead of email, that's no better. So there's this option where you can pin a comment. So if you have like the latest, like here's the latest and greatest, pin that to the top, and that's going to give everyone like a really quick answer there without digging through too much.
How do you pin it?
Yeah, so let me show you. So if we're having, and this is going to be super dynamic because it's just me over and over again, with really creative comments. So let's say that all of these are different people having a conversation, and you're just getting like this giant thread. There's lots of details here. You can pin this, and it'll kind of just be like, okay, I don't even need to worry about all this stuff. So the hope is that it's like a quick answer for you. And so then this other thing that I would definitely consider around conversations is this ability to email tasks. So if you're having conversations in email and you're like, this makes a lot more sense in Asana. So a lot of stuff makes sense in email, just like having conversations, but when it becomes like work and you're wondering like, wait, but who's doing this? And you kind of want some clarification, you can move those tasks or those emails to become tasks. You just forward them. There's a couple options. You just forward them here and it'll go to your My Tasks, and then you can kind of sort them, or you can forward things right to a project and you have this project code if you go here. So that's a really good way to kind of get an email and all of its stuff into Asana. So you can see it'll kind of break down, it carries over attachments, brings in CC'd people as followers. So that's a like quick way versus copying and pasting if you kind of see an email and just want to get it into Asana. And so kind of the last communication piece, and it's a small one, but a quick one that we use a lot, is this heart icon. So it's kind of a nod to like the Facebook like button. And the idea is showing appreciation, but also like if you want to just quickly acknowledge that you've read something, or maybe you want to vote on something, or like chime in if it's like a bug and you're like, oh, I've heard this too, or a feature request or whatever it is. I feel like I heart a lot of those. So just like quickly making your voice heard or like acknowledging that you've seen something, that's a good option. And you'll see that in your inbox. Like if someone finished something, just being able to quickly like heart it and kind of move on. So that's just like a more casual communication option, but any questions around any of that? Oh, that was a lot. Yeah.
I saw at the top you integrated with Dropbox and Box.
Yes.
Box, when you upload a project, you're able to talk back and forth on that too. But if you're trying to explain to someone that we should have the program, have it integrated through Asana and do the messaging back and forth, what's the difference really?
Between like what you would be doing in Box and what would you would be doing in Asana? I think
because really they're just talking back and forth about. This is much more worker friendly,
right,
as opposed to that one. That one's more just about the project.
Yeah, I think it would be more of just like having the exact details around like who's doing it by when, like any additional conversations. Because you're right, you're having the conversations, you're having like the people involved there. And I see people more using it to connect to Asana, just like, so this way we have all of our files. We don't want to have to update our links. Like we're doing our work here and saving things here, and then they're just like referenced there.
Right.
So, any other questions? Okay. So a few things that I definitely wanted to show you guys, and then I wanted to leave time for questions. I'm gonna apparently just hop around here. Is what it would look like to run meetings in Asana. So that's kind of, if you're thinking like this could be valuable, I wonder like how I would get started. I find that meetings are a really good way to more effectively have a meeting, but also like get people's feet wet in the tool. So to give you an idea of what that looks like, we have a project for each of our regular meetings. So our team meetings, and also our one-on-ones, and those are the one-on-ones are the ones that I was saying that we make private here and kind of choose who the members are. So it's like this confined bubble that only my boss and I can see our one-on-one project. But for a meeting project, it's probably fine to have for the whole team. And we've used sections to kind of separate out, okay, here's the things that we talk about every week. We're gonna kind of go through these topics. We're not necessarily checking these off as complete because we know that we're going to talk about them the next week. So leaving these as we go through them, great. And then everyone on the team prior to a meeting will add anything that they want to talk about to this project. So to this new discussion area. So a lot of the time it's stuff that I'm working on somewhere else. So let's say that I'm working in this project and I want to talk about this task that I'm doing in the team meeting. Instead of kind of recreating the wheel, creating all of this, building it all out, I'm just gonna add this task to also live just by clicking here, this pencil. I'm gonna add it to live in the team meeting, and I'm gonna put it right into that new discussion topics. So what that means is I have a single task that's just living in both spots. If I go back to my meeting project, I'm gonna see that task here. So if everyone's adding everything they want to talk about in our team meeting, we're walking through, yeah, cool, covered everything, checking these off as complete. This one that I'm working on somewhere else, I'm probably just going to remove it from the team meeting project, but keep it so I'm kind of still working on it wherever else it's living. So anything that makes sense to live in multiple spots, that's a good option. And then we're assigning next steps here. So the idea is like you're empowering everyone in the meeting. Anything they want to talk about, they're adding it here. They're hopefully coming to the meeting with an idea of like what you're gonna do. Next steps, everyone's walking away knowing what they're doing next. So if you're trying to get people started in the tool, they're going and adding things and kind of getting a feel for it. Then they're probably walking away with a to-do. They have a task, they can see all the details. It's kind of keeping them in Asana after the meeting. And then we'll take our notes in Asana. So there's HTML formatting where you can have things be bulleted or bold or underlined or whatever you'd like here. You can see a lot of those things are that @ mentioned hypertext to kind of reference different areas of Asana. But so we're keeping those notes here, and we're having this one project that we're kind of clearing out each week, except for the things that we would want to have here, the things that we know we're going to talk about the next week. So I think this is a good way to kind of, a starter project, to kind of get people talking. We'll approach this in meetings where everyone closes their laptop except for one person, and they'll kind of run the meeting and take notes. So any questions around that? And it's definitely an example of like, these aren't proper tasks, they're more like discussion topics and notes, but you're kind of using this framework. Okay. So that kind of covered that one. So we talked about this a little bit, this project overview area that I can update and provide, you know, status updates, colors, give the project members really high level, like 30,000 foot view, what's going on here. All of those are going to the project members, but each of you have these areas that I went through, these My Tasks and Inbox, and then you also have this dashboard. So what this is it's like your kind of space, anything that you want this high level overview, you can add those tiles here, drag them around to whatever order you'd like, and kind of get your quick snapshot of like, okay, all the stuff that we're doing, like how's it going? You'll notice if you create a project, it's gonna add you. So you might have a ton of these. You can X out of them so that you're not having just this crazy unmanageable view. But that's a good way to get like, okay, across all of these projects instead of clicking into each of them. So a few other things would be, so I've done a few of these around like multi-selecting. Okay, so all of this and like building all of this out, the hope is that it's quick for you, that it's not this like painful, like clunky experience. So there's tons of keyboard shortcuts in Asana. They're kind of hidden strangely, but they're this question mark. And if you go to keyboard shortcuts, there's a lot of them. I don't use all of these, but the text formatting ones and kind of the quick, like I want to assign something to myself, or I want to, you know, quickly create something without kind of taking me from where I am. I'll use those a lot. But then also anything that you're wanting to kind of take bulk action on, you can multi-select. If you want to like assign everything in one fell swoop or give everything a due date, tag it, you can, instead of clicking into each task, to do the same thing over and over again. And in that kind of same vein, any work that y'all have, if you're generally going through the same steps over and over again, I would suggest building out templates for that sort of thing. So I'm going to show you a kind of new hire onboarding example, but think of this in like anything that you do regularly. If you're going through the same iterations, building out a project or even a task to address those means that you have, in this instance, we have a new hire starting. So all I have to do is go here and copy this project, and it's going to copy over all of the details. So we assign people in our templates that are like our go-to people to the tasks, so that when we go to copy it, we have a new person starting. Brittany, our office manager, will get notified, hey, we need you to do this, all of these things before whatever the date is. So it's kind of like taking out some of the work when you're generally going through a lot of the same motions again and again. And this same option of going and copying it and deciding what you want to copy over applies for tasks as well. So we'll use that for like tasks with subtasks to kind of detail out all of our steps. In my instance, like steps, conversations that I'm having with customers. I'll detail all of those out as subtasks and just copy it each time. And then kind of the last just few ideas that I'll throw at you and then give you guys time for questions. Like tracking issues and bugs in Asana. So we use this as our bug tracking system. And something that's coming soon that's gonna make this like much, I'm gonna say better for bug tracking, is this custom schema. So being able to have custom fields that you're attributing to your tasks that you'll be able to sort on, search around, kind of control to bring some extra attributes. So adding some more kind of robustness, I guess, there. But again, kind of framing things using sections to kind of go through priority. This could also be like your different workflow stages. It's kind of however it would make sense for you. And then on another note around this, we'll use it for company goals. So this would be like in that staff team that everyone sees. So using sections to kind of break up, okay, all of our different departments, what are our big goals? And we have someone assigned to each of these, kind of like a key result. So we know who's doing what, like what are our big pillars, what are these big rocks that we're trying to achieve? We can see all of that here. And then a lot of these, you can see again, that kind of idea of this task living in multiple spots will be things that were kind of everything that we have in marketing. We also have living just those same tasks in our marketing project. So we're going through like our more granular sprint work, and everyone can kind of keep their eye on, okay, why are we doing all this stuff? And see those kind of big goals there that we can kind of keep our eyes on. So I just went through a lot, but we have about 10 minutes, and I'd love to answer any questions that people have. Yeah.
Do you all use Asana for all your internal communications, or do you use, how much do you use email, or do you use something like HipChat or Slack?
So I have literally, I don't think ever had an internal email. So I communicate with all of my customers via email, but internally, no. And then we do use, so we have the bulk of our communication in Asana, and then anything that's like very random, we have in Slack.
It's been 2 years since we've sent any internal emails.
It's crazy.
It's pretty, it makes this very nice for me personally. It's like my two separate worlds, right? But Slack will be more for like our instant type, like really quick question if it doesn't make sense as a task, but that's like this thing that we're kind of trying to constantly figure out if like,
You should add that into Asana.
yeah. And so we're bringing in things that are coming. We're bringing in conversations that are at a team level, and then they'll be at a project level soon, that are going to be like anything that doesn't make sense as a task, but you want to talk about, and like announcing something or like brainstorming, but you don't build it out as tasks, whatever it is. Having that be in this higher level team or even project conversations, but it's not going to be disruptive the way Slack is. So I kind of wonder if that's like something to come. It's kind of the constant conversation of like, do we build something that's disruptive, or is like our whole idea that we don't want to be disruptive? So,
Okay.
Any other questions? Yeah.
I don't know if you've already talked about this, I said to step up for a bit, but I heard that Salesforce is also something that you can integrate with Asana. Can you talk about that? Do you know anything about it?
So I'm interested who said that.
It's probably through Zapier.
Okay.
So you can integrate, it might be, no? It's not.
But that's okay. There might be some sort of Zapier thing that you could set up with it.
What I was gonna say, if it is with Zapier, it's super minimal, and it's like not robust integration. And also, if there's any sort of Salesforce integration, it's really minor.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you all use for CRM?
We use RelateIQ, who just got bought by Salesforce. So I guess Salesforce.
Is it integrated into Asana?
We have it integrated into Asana just because we have an open API. So we built that into our API, and really my team uses it to track customers. I've seen customers use Asana as a lightweight CRM, but it's pretty lightweight. You're not getting what you're getting from RelateIQ or from Salesforce, but it's really just successive sales that are using RelateIQ. So, and there are, on kind of that integrations front, there's a lot of integrations in Asana. So a few of them you saw, like the Dropbox and Box and Chrome as we walked through. Things are more on like the project front. Instagant is Gantt charting, and then there's like reporting options. A lot of hooks via Zapier, and then kind of the one that I love and that I think communicates really well is Wufoo, just as a way to do forms or surveys and get some good hooks between whatever you're having. Like we'll use this for customer feedback. Whatever you're having your customer do, or whoever externally or even internally do, and having that feed into tasks. And then a few things that are coming. I know I mentioned conversations. We're also in the midst of this, what we're calling the site remix. And so what it's gonna be is, so you see this top bar that if you've used Asana, you're probably like, it looks kind of weird, and if you haven't, maybe don't think anything of it, but it's kind of step one of this visual simplification of the web app. So we hear like our two most common pieces of feedback are, it's too complicated and we want more functionality. So like, how do we marry those? And the idea here is there's gonna be like all the same functionality, but kind of cleaning up the UI a bit so that hopefully the learning curve for people that are just logging in and are like, what is this, is less steep. So that's coming in phases over the next several weeks. Any other questions? Yeah.
I'm sorry, I stepped out for a few minutes.
Sure.
I wasn't sure if this is covered, but how is data protected? Is it secure? Is it in cloud? So does Asana employees have access to the data? Is it encrypted, or is it you can just purge it? How is data really residing on Asana servers?
Sure. So it's all in the cloud. We use Amazon Web Servers. So we have everything split across multiple Amazon servers. And if you go to asana.com/security, that could give you kind of like all of the reads around it. But there is, I think there's constant encryption happening. And this also talks about like our security policy and our security lead on our team and that sort of thing. So you can get more details around all of the security and encryptions here. Yeah.
Do you have the mobile app?
We do. So for iOS and Android. And our Android one was recently done to be native, so it's now beautiful. I can say that's a recent development. But it has all of the same functionality and visually looks a little different, but it's pretty clean and awesome. Any other questions? Yeah.
Where's the best place to get training online?
Yeah, thank you. That is a perfect question. So there is this asana.com/guide. So kind of a lot of asana.com/apps for your integration, security for your security, and this is your spot for anything you want to know. Has a really great search functionality, so if you're wondering about like subtasks, you can search that and see everything that we have built out here. We have a lot of really good videos that we'll give. There's like a 30-minute one that my colleague did that gives like pretty much what I went through, but getting more into the features. And then just a lot of kind of bigger picture things, how to map out different projects. This would be your kind of go-to spot. Cool. And so yeah, you guys should have all gotten this email about Perk Hub and like getting started and kind of what the codes are and that sort of thing. So if you have any issues with that as y'all are starting.
How did you get that?
It was via email?
Yep.
Yeah.
Chelsea should have sent it via email.
If we RSVP.
Yep. You get it as a member through PerkUp. If you go to the members directory and use the drop-down tab where it says members perks is also on there with the link to it.
What is Perk? Sorry, I wasn't here.
I don't know. Perk Hub is the Capital Factory
perk thing.
perk thing.
It's got all the perks on it.
It's the place with all the perks for the Capital Factory perks. That's all I know. Any other questions?
Perk thing.
Okay, so feel free if y'all like think of something, if you have a quick question, the guide's a great spot. Also, my email is just shannon@asana.com, so pretty easy. So if you have a question and you're building something out, I'm more than happy to answer it.
Where are you based?
In San Francisco. So, but I'm from Texas, so I'm trying to pepper y'all with y'alls so I can use them. Because I don't get to use them very much.
You're an Aggie?
I am, yeah. I was like, I'm not even wearing my ring. Are you an Aggie?
No.
Okay. I feel like that's a four-letter word. Ah, gotcha. Yep.
Anyone on the Asana team here?
No, not yet. So we're actually opened an office in Dublin this week. That's mainly support just to for time zones.
Dublin, Ohio, Dublin, Ireland.
Dublin, Ireland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Further.
A little further, yeah. And then we're opening an office in New York. And then I think kind of like as we grow, Austin is our COO is from here. So he has like a really soft spot for Austin. So we'll see.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all so much.
Thank you very much.